This week on the Digital Marketing Scoop, we're talking about Google Tag Manager. What is it, why you need it, and how to set it up. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Digital Marketing Scoop. So this week we're going to be talking about Google Tag Manager. You may not have heard of Google Tag Manager before. You've probably heard of Google Analytics. But Google Tag Manager is an extremely powerful tool for being able to inject code basically into your website. And we use it an awful lot here for kind of really detailed and specific like tracking.
Yeah. It's so good. I mean, it is essentially a one-stop shop for marketers. I mean, a lot of marketers would have experience with websites and be able to go in and inject these codes and this, that, and the other. But for vast majority of people, usually what you'd have to do is go to your developer, ask them to put in this bit of code, and there's just a big long cycle around that as well, and that can cost money as well because you've gone back to your developer and things. But essentially, with this, all you need to do is, even if you just asked your developer once to pop in the Google Tag Manager code, you can do the rest yourself from within Google Tag Manager. Then you can just add in every other snippet that you need.
Yeah. So like in a previous podcast, we were talking about Facebook Pixel. So if you had Google, as you say, if you got your web developer to do it on day one, if you have the Tag Manager installed on your site, it's very easy then for you to be able to install the Facebook Pixel onto your website.
Yeah.
In fact, as far as I remember, when you're installing through Facebook, one of the options is to install via the Facebook Pixel. You can give it access to your Tag Manager account, and it literally takes care of the whole thing for you, basically. So basically, Tag Manager is kind of broken down into what we call tags, triggers, and variables. So the tag is, for example, the Facebook Pixel. That's a tag. So you want to put that tag onto your website. Yeah. And that's a tag that's going to be going on to basically probably every page of your website.
The tag is essentially the code you would have been asking your developer to put in otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, it makes it very easy to do though once you have Tag Manager installed, that you be able to do it yourself.
Yeah.
So then you can trigger tags on specific pages. So for example, if you have Google Ads and so if you're running Google Ads and you want to track conversions on a form, you could set that tag to only trigger the Google Ad tracking tag, conversion tag, to only trigger on the thank you page after the form. That way, then you know that the only time that conversion pixel is going to trigger is when after somebody has filled in your form. And again,
triggers are just so detailed, like. It's amazing what you can do.
It is, and it again, like you said, it's with regards if you to go back to a developer to install the code on the thank you page of your form, it's gonna take, as you say, time and money. Whereas with this, you literally go into Tag Manager, put in your ID for your conversion tracking tag, tell it the page you want it to trigger on, and submit, and off you go.
I think the best thing about the triggers is that you can use a system of kind of like if this then that happens. So that'd be your kind of, you could have your one, but then you could have if this if this and this is true, then that will happen. So essentially, say if you have a great example of this is buttons, because often buttons have the same IDs on them or the same text. It might all be buy now or something. So if you had a tag to say, okay, let Facebook Pixel know or track whenever someone clicks the buy now button, but you can add in a second trigger to say, let Facebook Pixel know only when the buy now button is clicked on this URL. So you can double and layer these triggers together so that you can really, really get it can be really made granular and unique for every single website. There's definitely probably no website out there that wouldn't benefit from using the triggers in that way. Yeah.
So a really nice way you used that recently was on a client of ours who's in the restaurant business, and they had multiple different locations, and there's a menu button then for each location. So the menu button is the same text, but if you have the restaurant in Cork or the restaurant in some other location, you want to be able to differentiate the clicks across all those menu buttons. That's a Google Tag Manager is a great way to be able to do that.
Exactly.
And of course, then you can build custom audiences off all those clicks on those menus as well.
Yeah.
So it's an extremely, I suppose it's a tool that can be really simple and just save you some time going back to your developer. but you can also get extraordinarily complex with it as well.
Yeah. I think I love it because it's so organized in a sense. Like you just have your list and you can go in and you have your tags and your triggers and your variables, and it's almost like a drop down as well. I mean, it's not like you're going in and trying to figure out what code is a trigger for this, that, and the other, and you're literally going, I want Google Analytics to track this on this page and save, and then you just click preview and you just go onto your website and a little thing pops up in the bottom. You can click the menu and it'll tell you straight away whether that tag fired or not.
Yeah.
And then you know straight away.
Exactly. So you in live, you know whether it's working or not.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah. And then if it's not, I mean, there's been many a time it has not not triggered for me, but that's just going back in and playing around with it. Like sometimes you might use just the wrong trigger or something. Like often I've made the mistake of using a Cliq ID and then putting in the text on the button or something. There's little things you can do that wouldn't make it trigger, but it's great once you get it right.
Trial and error.
Split testing.
And one way as well, it's really great, is in reporting for us to a client, but not for yourself. So I use that one as the menu example as well, where if somebody clicks on the menu or on a particular button, you know they have an interest in the product or the service, but you can funnel that into a Google Analytics event, and then on the reporting to the client or your own reporting, you can literally have a row of, okay, here's how many people click this button, here's how many people click that button, where did they come from? So you know, okay, A is my marketing working, and B, which parts of my marketing are driving most of those events or conversions.
Yeah, when I set stuff up in Google Tag Manager, what I usually do is select it as an event, so that you can put in, you can title it whatever you want. I think it's category, label, and value. I usually just put in, say, menu button click Cork, we'll say, and then you take that out and you can go into your goals in Google Analytics and set them up as goals, just using the same, whatever you've put into your category, you can put in as your event value when you're setting up your goals in Google Analytics. And everything just marries together lovely. Like it'll just tell you everything. I mean, before I started using Google Tag Manager, I think sometimes someone would ask me a question of how well did this do, or how many actually bought this or that, or did whatever on the page, and I'd say I don't know. You know, whereas with this it's like, let me just get through all of it and tell you, you know,
literally anything you can think of that you want to track is using Google Tag Manager basically makes it much much easier. So in terms of actually setting up Google Tag Manager itself, it's again like anything, it's a snippet of code, but if you're using WordPress, there's a really nice plugin called Duracell Tommy's Google Tag Manager. That plugin is very easy to use. You sign up for a Google Tag Manager for free, you install the plugin, you just pop in your Tag Manager ID, and that will also automatically work with a lot of e-commerce, or with WooCommerce anyway, in WordPress. So it'll track events like add to cart, checking out, all that. It'll take care of all that for you. So that's a really nice plugin that you can use for really quick integration of Google Tag Manager, but also very detailed. And of course, then once it's installed, you can use it to inject whatever bits of code you need, like Facebook Pixel or the LinkedIn Insights tag or Twitter tag, all the different tags that you may need. Yeah, and
it's the same with Shopify. I've used that a little bit as well, and it actually has it in the settings. I think you just go into settings and say put in your Google Tag Manager here. You know, it's usually it's quite easy. You mightn't even need to go to your developer to get the code put in for your Google Tag Manager.
Yeah, depending on the platform you're using. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I suppose if you're, it's the way it goes in. I think if I remember correctly, there's a snippet for the header, and I think there might be a snippet
just
in
above the body
footer as well, or just above the body. Yeah. But generally, with most content management systems, as you say, it's going to be just a case of probably putting in the ID and off you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I suppose, look, the key takeaways are that Google Tag Manager is potentially a really nice way to make sure you can track everything that's happening on your website, and B, potentially save you a lot of money going back to your developer to install snippets of code here and there for you. because obviously that can take time. But if you do it through Tag Manager, you can do it yourself. And actually, one feature I didn't talk about was the fact that you can roll back as well. So like if you screw up, you put some code in the wrong place, you can literally roll back to a previous time in Tag Manager, so that you play around with it, make mistakes.
I regularly put stuff in just to test it and delete it. Just to see how it works, because when you start thinking about the bigger picture on Google Tag Manager, you can start getting a little bit overexcited. So you could be like, oh, do you know, this page with this button and timers and this, that, and the other. And you can really start kind of wheeling.
Start over-tracking.
Yeah, you can start over-tracking. Yeah, no, I might be a culprit of over-tracking sometimes, but it's better to over-track than under-track. But it can be really good. But it is, if you sit down with it for an hour, I think most people who haven't used it before would be surprised and amazed by what they can actually get answers for that they may not have had answers for before.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the Digital Marketing Scoop.